Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing, the Fawn Pod. This is Cody. I'm here with Justin this week. We're going to be checking out a show. I guess it's been on Netflix for at least a little while here, but was kind of newer to us recently, called The Devil's Plan. This is a Korean game show of a sort, which we'll talk about here in a second. But we will give Justin a chance to tell us what he has been up to as of recent. Justin.
Oh, geez. Well, the main thing has been the ongoing project at work where they are renovating things, which is supposed to be done at no later than the end of August. Uh, it's September as we as we're recording this, and no end in sight. So it has been incredibly stressful. I've actually got a coworker who's quitting or putting in his 2 weeks notice on Monday, partly as a result of this, because
Wow.
just from my just to give you an idea of where I've been standing 10 to 15 feet away from like a concrete saw for an entire week,
Oh my
for hours at a
gosh.
time, and yeah. And somehow they expect us to be open during this and like functional. It's been a nightmare. So having something like this to get my mind off of it is very nice. Aside from the show and then the crap at work, I have not jumped on the Silk Song bandwagon yet, although I have bought it. I have not started playing it because other games do exist, and including some that had release dates around this time before they did the shadow drop of, hey, this Silk Song's finally coming out. So
Right?
I'm playing one of those that we'll actually be talking about in a few weeks, so I don't want to spoil too much. It's a spiral horror game, and it's interesting so far. I'm going to leave it at that. Uh, but yeah, life's been kind of chaotic, especially on the work front for me. How about you?
Fair enough. Yeah, so Justin and I are the two hosts that are playing through this other game he's hinting at here, and I was definitely frustrated last night playing that game because I kept dying over and over and over. But it's extremely hard, at least on my end. I'm enjoying the overall atmosphere of the game, though. Like what the plot is exactly is still really early in its infancy here with where we're at. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I mean, it seems noteworthy to almost kind of reminds me of season one of Loki. I don't know if you watched season one of Loki or not, but it has a little
Hmm.
bit of that time traveling, trying to go back and figure out some mysteries type feel to it. With
Yeah.
much more sinister machinations around it, but so that's been pretty fun. I was gonna say too, one of the interesting things is that I think you're playing on PC for that
Mhm.
game,
Yep.
and I'm playing on the Switch too. And so last night when I played, this is kind of one of the goods and bads, I guess, about the Switch and Switch 2 is so I actually played with detached Joy-Cons. That's how I was playing last
Oh,
night. I
okay.
considered I considered putting them together for like the other style of grip. I considered getting like my Pro controller out from Switch 1 to try that. I
Hmm.
still might do that. But like the variety of options you have to play it, I don't know what the correct way to play it is. So I might have to just experiment around and just see what feels the best, I guess. But
Gotcha.
that's been great. And then otherwise, as I was just sharing, mostly everybody at the house here is sick. Some of them are using some liquid IV and some Dayquil and other things, whereas I am
Oof.
going to try the tried and true method of vodka. So that's what I'm going with today. I told them I was going to burn the sickness out of me, which I think has
Million
worked sometimes in life. I don't know. I swear it's worked sometimes.
millions of Russians can't be wrong.
Right? Oh my
Uh,
goodness. Exactly. Exactly. All right, well, let's jump into this today. We're going to take a look at the Netflix TV show The Devil's Plan, of which there are currently two seasons of on Netflix. We are only here to review the first season of that, and there was a pop-up on Netflix recently that said season three is coming in 2026. So we have that to look forward to if we want to continue with this show. I was quite shocked to see this show currently, for season one at least, holds a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes,
Whoa.
which I believe is like a couple percent higher than the classic Glenn Powell movie Hitman. So right around there somewhere. Suck it, Joe. And then also has an 8.3 on IMDb. Those are shockingly high to me for a few reasons, which we'll get into with our discussion here today.
Mhm.
But I did not expect that when I saw that. So, is this a show you had even heard of before this? Just scrolling through or anything?
No, no. It may have shown up in, like the you may also like, category, but I didn't really give it a second glance, if that
Yeah,
happened. In general, I do like Korean, well, cinema. I don't know if you can really call this cinema because it's more of a
sure.
game show kind of a thing. So when you guys were first talking about this, I'm like, that actually sounds pretty interesting. So, and given my track record with Korean entertainment, and my enjoyment of it. Yeah, I was really looking forward to this one going in, having heard virtually nothing about it prior to that. So,
Yeah, and I want to go through like what the show is and then some other questions I have about it here to kind of go over with you today. But I will say
mm,
too, like if you were on Netflix and even if this popped up as like a recommended title,
mm,
the icon for this show, and truthfully, even like the name of this show, I don't think is what it is when you actually start to watch this show. Like if you were passing it and you were like, "What's this? The Devil's Plan?" Ooh,
mhm.
it's not that. I don't know. I don't know what I'd call this show, but it seems like the title's weird, right?
It is, unless it's a different, unless it's a weird translation. Like it maybe instead
Hmm.
of the devil, maybe it's like demon or something in Korean, and they just decided Devil's Plan sounded better in English. I'm not sure. But yeah, I was expecting higher stakes, I guess.
You're right.
Not Squid Game necessarily, obviously, because this is like a real game show, not a drama.
Yeah, good
Uh,
call.
yeah, but I was expecting it to be, for there to be a bit more at stake, if people at each other's throats a bit more. And with the way it turns out, it doesn't really get there, which is odd now that you mention it.
It seems like a weird title for the show. Like spoilers somewhat here as we go through this, but like for a show called The Devil's Plan, I at least at a minimum assumed there would be some character called the Devil, of which there isn't. So
Well, I mean, there's the guy in the the rave mask.
yeah, there's the like weird host guy, I guess, that pops up once in a while.
Who honestly could just be could have been an AI image for all that he does. He's like leaning back in his chair with his hoodie on and his like glowy,
Yeah.
dead mouse mask on, and just with a microphone
Yes.
by his face. He barely even moves. So
Of which my daughter was like, "Is that mask from Spirit Halloween?"
it
I was
feels
like,
like it, yeah.
"Probably."
Like thematically, I can see at times what they were going for with the title. Like, the devil is all about deception and turning people against each other and whatnot. And there are times where people double cross each other or
Yeah.
backstab, each other or lie and that sort of thing. So I could kind of sort of see where they're going with that, but it doesn't really, they don't commit to it.
Yeah.
Like, hell, by the end, jumping full into spoiler territory here,
Yep.
um, by the end, there's like a reunion with all the people who've been, like, for lack of a better term, voted off the show, or who have lost. They
Yeah.
just come back in and they're like rooting for the people who are left. That's not really devilish, in my opinion.
Yeah. I liken this a little bit to. I probably have something on this later on in the list here, but if you've ever watched like my family loves baking competitions on
Hmm.
Netflix and other things, right? And they watch like the Great British Baking Show and some of these other ones. There's a cake and all these other things. And the
Hmm.
people on reality TV shows not based in America always seem to be so much more friendly and warm towards each other versus American things where it's always like cutthroat, me versus you, on every little competition they
Yep.
do. And this had a lot of that too. Like, yes, there were rivalries, but like these guys seemed to care about each other in some cases to a fault more than
Yes.
they did about winning the games. And I'm like, well, this is a competition,
Right. Yeah, like
but
there's
that's got to be like a
tears.
cultural difference.
Yeah, yeah, there's like tears flowing when certain people, lose and they're off the show. It's just like I get that you've developed a friendship over the course of this week or whatever, but come on.
Yeah.
Just yeah, very, very odd. And like you said, it could be a cultural thing. I'm not really sure on that, but I don't know. A lot of Korean entertainment is pretty dark. See also Squid Game or Old Boy or I Saw the
Yeah.
Devil or
What?
there's a
Old
whole
boy's
bunch
not
of
dark. What are you talking about?
no, no, it's a
Oh.
delightful story about a guy and his daughter.
Aye.
Uh,
All right. Well,
but
let's kind of go through what this is, and then we'll go into a little more detail here on what specifics. if you've never seen the show, I'm attempting to kind of give you an overview. I think there is in like episode one, they basically show that there was this big empty warehouse that they like constructed this huge soundstage on,
Mhm.
complete with like sleeping quarters and a big dining room area where they can eat, and then this huge game area and some smaller side rooms off the game area, a prison with like a tunnel through caves and stuff that was all built in. Um, which is, I thought it was kind of cool. They showed us that room beforehand, so I was like, that's kind of, usually you don't really just see like the before picture of something like that for the set building,
Right.
which I thought was kind of cool. So,
Yeah.
um, okay, so the short version here is we have 12 players, by my count here at least, that came into the Devil's Plan. This is interesting too. I don't know the rhyme or reason as to why they chose these people, but there is a wide variety of professions represented here. I won't go through all their names, but some of their professions, for example, there's like a YouTube celebrity, a couple esports people, poker players, a science person, a lawyer, actors, singers. There's like a wide range of people that are invited onto this show. Now, when they first introduced everybody, I kind of got the impression like they really purposefully chose very smart people for this show.
Mhm.
Which that alone, when I started with that, I was like, okay, this seems different than a lot of American counterparts where they would just pick like, dumb
The hot
celebrity
people.
one or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Hot Person Island season 42, that kind of thing. It's just yeah, that's American game shows these days.
Absolutely.
Uh
Absolutely. So, pretty wide range here of what they do. Interestingly, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later too, like three or four of the people of the 12 spoke English, the rest did not. And how the game is presented, we'll talk about a little bit later, which is, I guess, some real questions about how this is produced.
yeah.
Um, but anyway, and so basically the layout to the game is people are trying to collect these currencies. They just called pieces or like little gold pieces during the game. You want as many as you can because if ever you run out of pieces when they do eliminations, basically you're out of the game. What did you think of the idea that in this show, like potentially
Mhm.
nobody could be eliminated on an episode, or I think in the one they eliminate four towards
Mhm.
the end. So, what did you think of that as opposed to like the American formula of like one person's out every episode?
Uh, it made it very uneven because by the end they had to be down to a certain number of people.
Yeah,
And like you said, there are episodes where no one gets eliminated, and that really does make everything lopsided because sure, it does give you a little flexibility in how you approach it. Like, do you barter your pieces for a favor from somebody else, or do you spend them in the game, or do you save them and hope that you get through on your own abilities? Is sure, that part's kind of cool. But when you go through all that and it's just like, oh, well, that game didn't really accomplish anything except to maybe make this little faction over here, not like this little faction over here for a day.
hmm
It just felt, I don't know. I see what they were trying to do, but I'm not sure how effective it was, especially because, if it had been unknown number of people who make it through to the final stage, that would have been one thing, but it's
yeah,
clear they were aiming to whittle it down by the finals. And it's just that, especially with how they did it in this particular season, oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah, I feel that like there's a better way they could have gone about that.
yeah. It's interesting. I know I tried to find a little behind the scenes stuff on this show. I couldn't find a lot, but I did see one thing the producer said, which like if you watch this season, there's a player called Orbit who is basically like a scientist. And for whatever reason, his strategy, and he was one of the most vocal people, was to save everybody every game. And I did read a little bit with the producers, and they were like, okay, we didn't see that coming. And so, like, basically, it was their admission, which I figured they had to be, but they were like, we had to constantly alter the games because we were not aware of a player that was going to be a literal genius trying to save everybody every game.
Huh.
So they had to kind of, book on the fly, if you will, as far as some of these games to try to make it work with what was.
That might explain a few things that crop up later on, towards the middle to end of the season, because oh man, some of these games. Uh, um, but yeah, yeah, that does make some sense. Did we want to talk about like some of the stuff they do, or
Well, let's run through.
okay?
let's run through. I just made a list of the games here.
Mhm.
Which it was this part I did think was really interesting because I'm used to shows like The Mole or something where they're competing and they might make it, they might not, and they're trying to put money in a bank in this show just like they would on that show. But it's different here because they do what they call the main match first, of which they played seven of these: virus game, rules race, secret number, zoo, laying grass, equation high-low, and one-on-one little medley competition at the end. And people could get eliminated with these. You could earn some pieces with these, but no money was going in the bank during the big game.
Mhm.
Then they would play a cooperative game after each big game, which they called the prize match. And these were the cooperative puzzle merry-go-round, fragments of memory, which was the hospital scene game,
Mhm.
word tower scale game, face montage, and then four-player three in a row they played at the end. So they're trying to basically stab each other in the back, or so the producers probably hoped without casting orbit. And then
Yes.
after that, they have to turn around and work together to earn the money, which I thought that part was kind of interesting.
Yeah, because it really kind of shakes up your emotional state, I would imagine. All of this competition and being cutthroat and secretive and trying to claw your way to the top of what the first game, and then all of a sudden having to just put a pause on that and not really extend olive branches necessarily, but figure out a way to work with the others. Otherwise, you're not going to win any money by the end of it. It's an interesting approach,
Yeah.
but given how I don't want to say flimsy, but how yeah, let's go with flimsy just because it's fitting. How flimsy the rivalries in this are, because I mean there are groups that dislike other groups for a bit, and then it's just like as the game goes on, that kind of just goes away. And people start feeling fine about the others or like sad when they go or that sort of thing. It's just, I don't know. There's not enough there to make that disconnect between game one and game two
Hmm.
feel meaningful because sure, you might hate, this little clique that's off to the side that's been trying to screw everybody else over, but they're still part of the like the merry-go-round or whatever the second part of the day's games is, and they want the money too, so they're obviously going to cooperate. It's just it didn't seem like there was enough to really make them butt heads as much as they could be.
Hmm.
So yeah.
I am curious. I see season two is subtitled Death Room. I don't know if that is gonna mix up the formula or what. I purposely have not looked at spoilers for season two because I probably will watch some more of this, which we'll get to later. But
Okay.
all right, well, let's go through some of the kind of questions I had here, back to like the concept.
Mhm.
Let's go. Well, there's a bunch in here, but let's start with in general, I guess. Let's just open up the Justin floodgates here. What did you think of the actual competitions themselves, the actual games?
Oh my God. I don't know if I've seen a set of challenges this uneven in something that's made it to air. Like it started out strong. It started out really strong with the virus game they called it, which is
Hmm.
essentially very much a social engineering, social deduction kind of thing, kind of like Mafia or Werewolf, but with more roles. It's like, there's two terrorists who are trying to spread a virus and be the only ones left at the end of the round of the game. There's researchers who are trying to stop them. There's normal people, but then there's also like a reporter that can find out any one person's identity. There's someone who's trying to die. There's and I think there were a few other roles too. It's just a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is complex, but it's cool because it is playing everyone, especially being that they were strangers in that first game. It's playing them all against each other.
Yeah.
Like no one knows what to expect, who to trust, if anyone's telling the truth. And I'm like, all right, if this is the show, that's great. And there's a few other games like that, like the one where they had to try to guess the secret number that a person has to try to like earn points that way, and while keeping their own number hidden. It's like that game later on was cool,
Yeah.
but that they all it's interspersed with things like the face game and the oh, okay. There's the social deduction games, and then everything else falls into two other categories: either math, just like pretty much straight up math, which
Yep.
the producers grossly overestimated how entertaining it would be to watch people do math. But beyond that,
Yeah.
especially when you get to the reunion, we're watching a group of people watching another group of people do math for an
Yeah.
episode and a half. And that really lost me. But then there's the other type of game, which is just taking something normal and adding so many convoluted and just esoteric rules to it that it becomes a chore to even figure out what you're doing. It's like we're going to play checkers, but instead of checkers, instead of like the red and black pieces, it's going to be all playing cards, and they're all going to be played face down. And you have to try to remember which cards are red and which are black as you're playing against the other person. And then every 3 rounds that are divisible by 2 or 5, you can pay a piece to rotate the board 90 degrees, but the direction the board will rotate will be random. And it's just like adding crap like that on and on and on. It's just like they take something that should be straightforward and digestible. And there were some of these games where I looked at them, I'm just kind of like, all right, fine. I'm just gonna watch them do their thing and see who's eliminated at the end. I'm not even gonna try to follow this because there's complexity and that there's just being obtuse.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel a little bit of what you're saying here, at least. There were moments in some games where, just like you said, where I was like, well, I'll just kind of wait till something happens here.
Yeah.
Which is, this is jumping ahead a bit, but that's one of my major gripes with the production of the episodes is like, I don't need to see 60 minutes of them playing poker to understand that they're playing poker. Like,
Yes.
and so won 6 chips. And I'm like, I don't need to know that. Like, just get to the big moments and tell me what's happening right here.
Yep.
They
Instead of
spent a lot of time on a lot of moments that did not need to be covered with the time they
yep.
gave them.
And it's like, oh, they played the square root symbol when they should have just gone with straight up division. You fool! That's going to ruin you. It's just, I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
Uh,
That being said, I did actually kind of like the poker game, but I liked
I
the
did.
concept of the poker game of people trying to win 2 different ways, I guess is what I'm saying. So,
Yeah, yeah. And then it just kept going.
I mean, it could have literally been like so and so's trying for a high hand, somebody's trying for a low hand, and you get to pick which one you're doing
Yeah,
secretly. That would have been fine, just as much as
yeah.
the mathy stuff.
And
But
and for the listeners at home, that was the competition that they needed to eliminate like 4 or 5 people during. So it just kept going and going and going, and it's
yeah,
just, oh my God. Uh, so,
yeah,
and that's not even getting into like the metagame stuff with like the prison and all that. So,
yeah. Okay, well, let's keep going here. Well, on the subject of games, I guess, did you have a favorite that stuck out to you?
um, I really liked
Either of
the
the prize match or the main matches?
my favorite in the main matches was probably the first one, the virus game, just
Mm.
because there was so much interplay going on between people and figuring out who you can trust and all that. That was cool. Um, I liked the concept of the rules game where you could like piece mix and match, rules and apply them in different ways. But the rules weren't translated until someone played them. So you had
Yeah,
no idea what you were looking at in the options on the screen in the background because it was in Korean. And sure, that's a lot of stuff to put up in text on the screen. But I felt really lost on that one. Conceptually cool, and just the way they executed it was not so great because I
yeah.
never knew what to expect because I didn't know what people had available to them.
Yeah, nor
Let's
did they
see.
tell us. It was like somebody would just randomly roll something or land someplace, and they're like, "Oh, you've activated this person's power," and we were like, "They
Right.
did? Okay."
Right. I liked the merry-go-round thing where they all had to kind of take turns doing tangrams. I think I would have been pretty good at that one. That one was neat. I also would have been like raging at some of the other people. It's just like, no, the triangle doesn't go there, kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. It was a hard
Once I
one to
hate,
watch.
yeah. Once I hated though, like the poker one after a while. Also, they really overestimated how interesting it was to have people looking at basically a police lineup and trying to see when a face repeated itself. Oh my, that was like the longest
Yeah,
20 minutes of television I've watched in a very long time, or however long it went for, but that was too long.
yeah.
What about you?
Um, I agree with the initial game, the virus game. What I would like to have seen happen there was actually maybe have nobody be eliminated as a rule for the first game because I think
Hmm.
just to get to know them a little bit past one game, like I felt bad. How do you say the Canadian guy? How do you say his name? Guy.
Oh yeah,
Guillaume or something like that.
Guillaume or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. Like he was eliminated right away in the first game, and everybody was brokenhearted and sad. And he looked like he was an interesting player, so like I would have
Mhm.
liked to have seen him stick around a little bit longer.
Yeah, and he was playing up his whole being foreign thing. Is like, oh, I didn't quite understand the rules. That's
Yeah.
why I did this thing. And it's just that was clever on his part. And
So I think if they
yeah,
had started with like two games that were social deduction, so we could have seen their personalities a little bit more and backstab each other a little bit more, that might
yeah,
have been a better way for us to get into the characters.
I agree. Yeah,
Because
like
even
some
with,
of
go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, like some of them right off the bat, like Orbit. He was very clearly. It was clear what his personality was. I want everyone to succeed and that sort of thing. And then there
Yeah,
was it like Dong Jae, I think was his name
yeah,
was the yeah, where he was very much just trying to play people off of each other for his own benefit. It's like some of them stood out a lot, others not so much. And yeah,
yes.
I feel like I never got a chance to know some of them. So yeah,
Yeah, particularly, and I don't intend this to be a sexist comment, but particularly some of the ladies on the show, like I feel like just did not have a big enough personality or had enough screen time to really get to know some of them.
yeah,
Like there was one or two that were kicked off that I was like, who was that again? Like, and there was only 12 people, so I was like,
yeah. They just never really did anything to stand out.
yeah,
Unlike, what was it, Kyung Min, the older lady, who in the first game, she was like, "I'm the reporter, and these people are terrorists," kind of a thing. It's just
yeah.
like, okay, you've made, for better or worse, you have stood out at this point.
Told everybody who you were.
Yep.
I thought the game where they put the little grass tiles down was interesting. There
Mm.
might have been a couple powers in the game that I felt were a little overpowered, but I thought that was interesting how they could kind of switch the piece they were going to get if they wanted to spend a little bit. And
Hmm.
that was another one too, where like there was a set board and like people were claiming territory. I mean, that was a very board game-esque
Yeah.
challenge, and that was a fun one to me.
Yeah, that one was neat. And just some of those pieces were just really weirdly shaped. So trying to figure out
Yeah,
how they would even work those in was neat in and of itself, I thought.
yeah, super fun. That
Yeah.
was neat. Let's see, what else did I like? I actually did enjoy the hospital scene that they had to memorize. I knew I would be terrible at that game, but they that one girl got all of them, and I was like, oh my gosh! Like
Yeah,
I
and the
know they
first one
talked about it together, but
misunderstood.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that was a fantastic piece of memory there.
yeah,
Like, oh, on the calendar, it's at this date, but the time on the clock in this other room is this, so that means it's actually this date, and it's just like, wow, that is some attention to detail right there.
yeah, I thought that one was pretty cool. I thought the one with the I guess it was called Word Tower, I guess, but I thought that one was fun where they were trying to like mix all the blocks and then figure out which words were in the blocks together.
Yeah, and that was
Uh,
in English, which was impressive. I mean,
yes.
yeah, I mean, I was expecting that to just be okay, Korean characters to try to like fit them together to make words in Korean, but when it was actually English, I'm like, holy crap, that's
All right,
that's
well,
some
let's jump ahead
yeah.
to that because that was a
Mhm.
major question I had about this show, and I don't understand it. So it's a Korean
Mhm.
game show, but
Mhm.
like three of the people on the show spoke English, but it's a Korean show where they dub English over the people that are already speaking English, but none of them in their natural voices. I was so confused.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I also
They're like,
didn't
go ahead.
I also didn't understand, like you said, like some of the games were in English. And it seemed
Yeah,
like the other nine players didn't know English. So I'm like, what is going on right now?
but they somehow were able to help contribute and like, yeah, I don't quite, yeah, there was a lot that wasn't fully defined with regards to the language barrier, and I still have questions. Uh,
I didn't understand it. And like, it's weird to me to watch the whole show. I mean, I watched it with the English dubs. I'm assuming you did as well. I don't know.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. So like it's weird because every once in a while I would catch myself being like, well, this isn't that person's real voice. Like it's the voice I associate with them now. When I hear it, I know which character it is, but that's not their real voice. And it almost felt like the longer the show went on in episodes, the voice actors possibly were just ad-libbing stuff. I don't know. Like, they'd walk into a room and they'd be like, "Oh, wow, this looks like it's really good for Netflix," or "Oh man, this is something else." And I'm like, "They
Yeah,
didn't
it was
say that.
odd.
They didn't say that. There's no way."
Yeah, yeah, and it's a matter. But I mean, I don't speak Korean, so I wouldn't have been able to call them on it
Yeah.
anyway if I had what. Yeah, yeah. So it's yeah. I really do kind of wonder about the choice for translations in this.
At a minimum,
Just
I just didn't understand why they didn't not dub the people that were speaking in English. I guess to keep the voice
yeah,
consistent the whole way, but
maybe,
like
but
you could see like the Canadian guy was speaking English,
yeah,
but they were
yeah.
dubbing over it, and it with an I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
Or yeah, there were a lot of games and puzzles that had things in English, and then I was
Mhm.
like, well, why is that in English?
Yeah, and then on the flip side, there was that one where all the rules and all the things they could do were in Korean, and I am like, I have no idea what I'm looking at, so I'll just sit back and let the time tick out. So yeah, it just
Yeah.
certain things in the production were odd. Um,
It, it
but
it was
yeah,
very weird. I don't know. Well, let's just I got another one on production here just to wrap up that.
sure.
We've complained on how many podcasts about how these streaming apps cut shows. How did this work for you in this one?
Oh,
I saw a review online that praised how they cut it and made 7 days of time into 12 episodes. I could not disagree more.
for a while it was like, oh, this is an effective cliffhanger. Okay, I see why they cut it here and why they decided to include all of this because they were waiting for this moment to try to, you know, keep people coming back. And then there were episodes like the poker game where that really could have been condensed a lot more. And there were times it felt like it was just padded. Like they didn't need to show everything they showed, but they wanted to get a certain number of episodes out of it. So they were just like, well, we'll stretch this out, and oh, I guess we can make this into some sort of like teaser for the episode that follows it. But there were times it really felt just artificial. So yeah.
I did not understand, as I've mentioned on this podcast many times,
Mhm.
why was this not a 7 episode show? Like the 7 days of competition,
Yeah.
there's zero incentive for Netflix to split this into 12 episodes. Normally, I would say here's their reasoning. One, they want to keep the episodes short so people can
Mhm.
binge them, except in this show, almost every episode was over an hour anyway.
Yep.
Two, they want like a certain minutes of viewing for the show. That doesn't change based on how many episodes it has. You're still watching the same amount of minutes. That drove me
Yeah.
nuts. Like, why are we cutting at this spot? And then I
Yep.
further, and I will go so far as to use the word hated. I hated that they would do the parts where they were like 20 minutes later and they'd give you a preview of like what was coming. And I was like, I don't want to see that.
Right. I let
Like
it happen organically.
if I'm in episode five, you don't have to tease me on what's going to happen for episode six. Like I'm already here.
Yeah, yeah. I
Oh, I
mean, yeah,
hated that.
it was, yeah. It's like they didn't trust the audience to be interested enough to continue on their own. So they were like, "Oh, if you wait here, you can see this cute little Korean girl get betrayed and cry on camera."
Yeah,
It's just like
yeah,
because
that
they showed
was,
that like three times. It's just like,
yeah.
why won't you? Do you even know what my number is or whatever she said? And she's like in tears. And yeah, they did that like three times as like some sort of incentive to keep watching. And I just felt bad for her.
That's hilarious.
Uh,
Uh, no,
but yeah.
I didn't understand that. Let's talk about so if you were still in the game after they played a main game, if you were still in, you weren't eliminated because you had the least or zero, or I guess it was zero most times. If you had zero, you were out.
Mhm,
But then the people who had the bottom two amounts went to prison. So you hinted at this earlier. Now the
mhm.
prison was like this door that opened, and the first time it opened in the main room, everybody was like, "Oh, that's what's behind that door," because they had been using some of the side doors for other missions they were on.
Mhm.
And basically, they're led down, like the two players are led down this tunnel. A door opens, and they go in this, I mean, pretty awesome looking little prison
Yeah.
cell. It's got two cots and a little table, and presumably looks like a bathroom, maybe off to the side,
Mhm,
and a bucket of water. Like they didn't even have running water there. And
mhm.
they were actually served like less quality food than the people who were back at the main hall chewing on lobster and shrimp or whatever they had that day. In
Yeah.
prison, they'd have like bread and like a piece of fruit or a potato or something,
Maybe
you
like
know,
rice porridge or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a downgrade. But the prison also had a drawer which had a little mini puzzle in it, like a little
Mhm,
metal chain puzzle or something like that. They could
mhm.
work on and they could get peace that way if they were to solve that, which was kind of interesting too, because there was
Yeah.
two people always in the prison. Only one person seemed to solve the puzzle, but for the most part, they didn't seem to really care who solved the puzzle, which I thought that was a little weird too. But
Yeah. It's just, yeah, you think there would have been a little more greed for a piece to increase their own standing heading out of prison. But yeah, for I guess everything is hunky dory when you're cellmates or something.
Yeah. Was
And
it was it C1?
oh yeah,
She
yeah,
was she would she every time she get there, she'd just like hog the puzzle and the other person would be like, okay.
mine. Yeah. Uh, but
And then
yeah,
they
and
eventually discovered one of the electrical sockets came off the wall and there was a keypad behind it, and that kind of opened up really what was the only mystery of the show.
yeah,
Like, how do we
and
solve this number puzzle?
the method of solving it I thought was the coolest thing because it had to do with really thinking outside the box in something that was disconnected from the game's by itself, and yet you had to, have an attention to detail and, be willing to experiment with things. I thought that was really cool. The show, if it had more of that, I would have been very, very happy.
Hmm.
On the flip side, they're in there all night. You could have brute forced your way into that combination but before the night was over easily. Like I used to do that. I used to work at a used game store, and occasionally we would get people trading in like DSs that had a parental lock on them. Within like 2 hours, even if I started at 0000 and just like went through every permutation, I could have it unlocked and ready to go.
Hmm.
So there's no reason why they were just lazy. There's unless the producer said, "Hey, don't just keep hitting numbers until you
Can't
open
just
it."
do
And
it. Yeah, maybe.
yeah, but I mean, I really I wanted to kind of like scream at them, just like, what else are you going to do in prison? Just keep hitting, you keep going through, and eventually it'll open. Um, but yeah, so the lead up to that I loved because it's just like, oh, this is something new. This is something different. This is it implies that there's more to the show.
Yes, which
And then
was huge.
yeah. And then when someone finally gets it open, it's like it leads down another corridor and like steps and like to another room with this creepy like notice taped to the door, and it's like, oh wow, okay, we're getting somewhere. And then
Oh, you didn't like that part, huh?
okay, I like we said, we're kind of in full spoiler territory at this point. Do you mind if I take point on this one?
Go for it.
Okay, so only one person can go into the room beyond the combination lock per day, and and the other has to stay outside. You can get a glimpse as someone's going in, but that's like it. And they go in, and it's like this cavern, like this little cavernous room with like a throne in it, and there's these robed figures, one of whom's sitting on the throne, the other is like standing by, making sure that no one else sneaks in or whatever. And it's like, oh man, this is like some Resident Evil shit right here,
Yeah.
and where are they going with it? You want to know where they went with it? Blind Othello, for lack of a better, not exactly Othello, but a game that's very close to it. That's it. You're playing, memory Othello against this guy in a robe who isn't even making his own moves. He's doing it from like some, I forgot what the actual name of the game is since it wasn't Othello, but it was, I'm just going to say Othello as a placeholder, who is
Yeah.
making his moves based off of a like Othello AI that, is reacting to everything that the player does. And it's like, really? All of that effort? And sure, if you lose, you're out of the game. So it's like, okay, there's that. But and if you win, I think the price was only like 10 pieces. It's not even anything like, it's not another mystery. It's not some secret item that you can use to your benefit, and only your benefit. It was just you win 10 pieces and you get to keep playing after all
Yeah.
that.
Gomoku, it's called,
Gomoku, thank
or
you.
five in a row. But yeah, I agree. The hype to like get in there, that was the most curious I was in the whole show, was like, what's behind this door once they get it open? And I had no
Yeah,
idea because the format of the show was like, is it going to actually give them like just straight up the ability to cut somebody out of the show or send them home, or what's going to, because
right.
there were,
And
the show itself was so simple in ways. I was like, what could they possibly have in here that'll fit in this formula?
mhm.
Money.
And
I guess it
then
was money.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, the thing was, there was never even any guarantee that anyone would get to that room. Like, there was no guarantee someone would fiddle with the light socket and find that, or find the way to get the combination, or so. I jokingly said to you,
Yeah.
leading up to this, like, did they just have staff down there in those robes waiting every time someone went to prison, just in case someone figured out the combination? It was
Yeah.
weird. It was very
No,
weird.
I agree. That's
Yeah.
what I said back to you. Like, if, because they said like this is the last night we're sending somebody to prison. So, all right, if that one guy hadn't gone, Nobody would
Yeah,
have ever used the entire tunnel, or they would,
yeah. It's just like they would have spent all that effort for nothing, which I don't know. It on the one hand, it feels like it is a reward for people being curious and, experimenting with stuff. But at the same time, what they get at the end of it, it looks really cool until they get to it. And then it's just, I don't know. It's like Price is Right. I'll choose door number three and it's like a lawnmower or something like that.
yeah.
It just felt like a letdown.
I definitely would have liked to have seen more things off to the side like that,
Yeah. Yeah, because I
which,
mean they had all that time during the night when there were no games going on. Like I was after I saw like, oh, there's something hidden in the prison, I thought there would be stuff hidden like in the living quarters and whatnot that people could discover like under a flower pot or like in one of the drawers there's like
mm,
another keypad or something. Never happened.
yeah, it was really just the one game that they kind of foreshadowed they would play later that they could play in the dining hall.
Yeah.
I thought when the door opened down in the prison, somehow, this was my thought, it was going to lead to like a like a stairway
Mhm.
that was going to come up and basically be like a one-way mirror, and they were going to look down into the dining hall. And I
Oh.
think that would have been really cool, except when I was saying that to my daughter as we were watching, I realized like nothing interesting enough is happening down in the dining room though that like they could spy on people in this particular show. Like if it had been a
That's
different
true.
show, maybe, but
That's true. I mean, maybe they could, if there was like a microphone set up, they could eavesdrop on what alliances are forming or that sort of thing. But
yeah. And that would have been fun
yeah,
because then they would have had information other people wouldn't have had, and they could use that to their
right.
advantage, and like that would have been more interesting, I think.
Right,
But
like, oh, I know you're planning to double cross this person later on, so I can use that to, get in with someone else, and but it never happened.
yeah, for the most part, there was only two alliances during the game. I mean, with minor
Yeah,
variations here and there, but like, and they basically stayed with those right through to the end,
yeah,
which, minus a couple people that were on the fringe of one and maybe toying with the other, kind of limited the drama a little bit. Every game was like us versus you, even though it was always supposed to be player versus player versus player. And the fact
hmm
that, and you mentioned it casually earlier, but in an American show, they would not have been able to. But in this game, if they wanted to, they could just straight up give pieces to somebody else from their
yeah,
pile to keep them alive, or to
and that
give
happens
them,
on occasion.
yeah, or to buy a reward or whatever the case is. Which I feel like that would definitely not happen if it were in an American show. So,
Yeah,
speaking of, wanted to ask you,
hmm
do you think, I don't know how many people watch this show, like the reviews are really high,
hmm
but some notes I had on this, do you feel like if this show was in English and was with all like American people taking place in America, like would this show have any chance in America of being successful?
Whoa. I this is a damning critique of my own country.
Yeah.
No, I don't think your average American contestant would be smart enough to follow the rules of some of these games, in all honesty. Like the virus game alone, it's like sure, maybe that would I think that would be the extent of what they'd be able to follow. But when you're getting into like the rules game where you can like pick and choose and like swap and trigger things based on other things, and then I don't think that would gel with an American set of contestants. Um, so yeah, it's I made that joke about like Hot Person Island, uh, season whatever earlier, and it's just like that's kind of the extent of what we do over here, and it's kind of sad. And
Yeah,
then there's Jeopardy.
yeah, I kind of agree. I feel like the players would have been not to the quality that some of the ones on the show were. But B, I could not see an American audience watching this. Like if they put this on mainstream ABC, NBC, something like that, it wouldn't last this 12 episode run.
No, no, it reminds me of that show. It wasn't a game show, but it was billed as a reality show at first, and then it morphed into something else from years and years ago that you and I watched together, Siberia.
Oh yeah.
Remember? Yeah, where it's just like, yeah, that I think was their attempt at doing something even remotely this high concept, and we all saw how that ended up.
Yep.
And for those of you listening who've probably never heard of that show, you see how that ended up.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think
yeah,
America would take to this as it were. Like it's interesting that it's on Netflix as an option to watch. Part of the problem, I think, with the show, and even for me as an audience, I feel like as we've kind of discussed, but to summarize here, the show is simultaneously too complex and also too simple.
Mm.
And that's a hard place for a show to exist at.
Yeah, like the individual rules for some of those games are just the explanations last for like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and but the overall rules of the show are just so not even vague. It's just like so simple, so straightforward. It's just like you run out of pieces, you're gone. You have the one of the two lowest piece counts at the end of this first game, you're in jail, and that's kind of it until we get to the end. And that's yeah, it's
Rinse
I
and
agree.
repeat.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a weird juxtaposition of that simplicity and that overcomplicated individual competition. You know, so
I'm
yeah.
I'd be curious what they could do to mix up this formula. I feel like even if they had like what if they said, all right, two people go to jail and then we're gonna randomly draw two names out of the people left. And those two
Hmm,
people are confined to the sleeping quarters and the dining room for the day. They don't get to participate in the game.
hmm.
Which could sow some distrust between some of the alliances, and also maybe would
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe give them something to do back then, but they're missing out. I mean, there's ways you could shake this up. You could use the bedrooms as like a mini prison as well, like you're stuck in the
Hmm.
bedroom with something, or
Yeah.
um,
I think it needed more in between competition stuff to actually keep things interesting. Because
yeah,
once aside from the prison thing, there's like little board games they can play at the kitchen table. They can talk. They can eat. That's about it. And if there had been some sort of something goading them into forming those alliances or breaking those alliances or, sowing distrust, like the devil would do to try to, get people to turn on each other, it would have been a lot more interesting. But instead it's just like, well, you made it through. Here's filet mignon until the next game and
yeah,
just trying, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and yeah, nothing to really prod them into being competitive like they intended, and that's just, I think that's why so much of this fell flat, and why Orbit's whole plan of Kumbaya, everyone all get along and survive till the end, lasted for as long as it did, because there's no incentive not to, really.
yeah. I that kind of particular. It's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he got on my nerves after a bit because it's just like, oh my God, dude, just
like
not everyone can win the money. This was
yeah,
established at the beginning.
such a
Stop
weird.
doing this.
Weird angle to come in at. I mean, to his credit, I guess it kind of befriended him to most people, and they kind of
Mhm.
listened to him for the most part. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of
Uh,
interesting. Did you get? I was just curious. I don't know why.
mhm.
Maybe Squid Game influenced me or other things, but I kind of kept thinking for some reason one of the players was going to end up being the person behind the mask, and I thought that was the twist of the show.
Mm.
Nope.
Yeah, that would have been interesting because then, it's just like they're steering things as the competition goes on to,
Yeah.
more conflict or whatever, which would have been kind of cool, but no, just far too many people left at the second to last game and
Yeah.
do math equations for an hour and a half.
I mean,
Joy.
we could definitely say they ate well on the show. There was food everywhere all the time.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know. So I think the show needed like a villain or something. I mean,
yeah, oh God, yeah. If the devil guy like in his mask was supposed to be the villain or like some sort of antagonist, they failed on all fronts there.
yeah, there wasn't even like I want to say like there wasn't even a real host to the show. There was like a guy who explained the rules. Like that was it.
Yeah, and like all the attendants were just very very deadpan, very emotionless, very just like, here is your card. You need to go to this room now.
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kept expecting at some point the guy in the mask to do something, to, show up on screen unexpectedly and be like, pop quiz hot shot, you're all going to the competition floor for something that you didn't expect, something to
Yeah, mix it
shake
up a
things
little bit.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, he was just there. He didn't even need to be there.
True.
Just
Absolutely true. There was no purpose for him to be there other than the guy to just show up on screen.
yeah, yeah, and it wasn't like a scary mask or anything. It was like he
Yeah.
just walked out of a rave.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Uh,
All right. Well, despite all of these things that we are saying, I do think some of the characters at least had some personality to them. So I wanted to ask you if you had any favorite players from the show.
Um,
I'm curious what
I
my daughter and I went opposite here, so I'm curious what you say.
Honestly, by the end of it, I ended up liking Kyung Min a lot more than I expected to. The old lady who was the journalist in the first game, because
Okay.
at first it's just like, oh man, you're doomed. You're far too trusting.
Yeah.
You're just gonna be out of this, right off the bat. And then she just started doing stuff like to ingratiate herself to people and to like help out and whatnot that I didn't expect. And it's just like, you're actually a solid competitor. The I was weirdly intrigued by the professional Go player. I am blanking on her name, but
Yeah.
yeah, just the fact that
Young
go ahead.
Woo.
Yes, yeah, where like for the first few games she didn't really do anything, and she ended up in prison like twice, and it's just kind of like somehow you're still here. So I was actually kind of in the same boat that you mentioned, thinking that somehow she was connected to the guy running everything,
Yeah.
and that was the only reason she was still around. And then she got voted off. I'm like, oh, well, that was a complete red herring.
Hmm.
Um, and I didn't like him, but I loved to hate him. Dong Jae. He was so full of himself and so cocky, and it's just such a weasel.
That was a
Uh,
loss to the show when he went out, I feel like, because he actually had one of the
yes,
bigger personalities.
yeah. So those were like the three that stood out to me. What about you?
Yeah, as the show went on, I kind of started to gravitate more towards Orbit's alliance, to be honest.
Hmm.
So my daughter was Team Sukjin on the other side, but I liked Orbit, even though he was clearly a faulted player at this. Seemed like a really bright guy who was really hard on himself when things didn't go exactly as he thought they should go.
Hmm.
Um, just as like a pure personality, I liked Junbin as well, the YouTube
Hmm.
former StarCraft player. Um,
He was fun.
I honestly thought he was going to be much bigger in the game than he was. So I don't know. For some reason, when they introduced themselves, I was like, "Oh, this guy is gonna hide how good he is the whole show,
Hmm.
and then strike." And I kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and nope, he was just happy as he got as far as he went. He said, "So
Yep.
okay,
He was like, I'm he's kind of I think at one point he kind of just shrugged. He was like, I'm bad at math or something like that.
yeah."
Uh
Um,
yeah.
not one of my favorites, but I always enjoyed the antics of this Sung Kwan, the singer. He was the
Hmm.
boy band singer who always did all the like
Oh
faces
yeah.
and was shocked by everything. Was like, "This is the episode. I'm going to go all in on stuff." And then he's like, "Maybe next one. Maybe the next
Yes.
one."
Uh
Um, and I also liked he had the most personality like the last time he was in the show, which was when he was like walking through the dining hall doing impressions of people. And I was like, "Oh,
oh
that's pretty
yes.
good. That's pretty good."
Yeah.
Um,
Uh
And then I started to cheer towards the last half, I would say, for Dongju as well, the last lady who
hmm.
was there, the lawyer.
Oh yeah, yeah. She was solid throughout.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was pretty good. So those are probably my favorites, I think, in the show. I think the Canadian guy might have grown on me if he had lasted longer, but
But yeah, like we said,
yeah.
hardly got a chance to get to know him.
Yeah. Dong
So
Jae, like your guy you mentioned, he was irritating, but at the same time I was like, I would probably play the game somewhat similar to how he is playing the game, I think.
yeah, he was
Um
smart about what he was doing, even if he was kind of a jerk about it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which brings me to my last question I have for you, Justin, which is how do
Mhm.
you think you would have done on the show if you were a contestant?
Ooh,
Language
assuming that,
aside, language
yeah, I was about to
aside,
say,
just for
assuming,
play.
certain, I liked the ideas behind a lot of the games on here. Being that it started with a like a social deduction and like subterfuge kind of a thing, I think that would have hamstrung me because we've played games like that together at get-togethers, and I'm not good at those. So I think that I might have been out early
I'm the
if that was.
journalist.
But yeah, if that was the first game, I think I might have been out pretty early. But some of those other ones, like trying to guess the numbers of people, that sounded really, really interesting and fun to try to like figure out how to go about not giving out too much information while getting info from other people. That was cool. The tile placement game I would have liked. But there are certainly ones that I would not have been great at, especially the ones where so much of it is random, like out of your control, like the one with the weights and measures. like with
Yeah.
the different minerals or whatever they called them. Yeah, because I left to my own devices, I'm sure I could have probably figured out like what was what. But when you got people who are just like completely throwing off the scales and everything that I can't have any control over or any communication with, I that would have driven me absolutely nuts.
Hmm.
So some of the games I would have loved, some of them I think I would have hated. If it started with the virus game, I don't think I would have lasted long. But if it didn't, I feel like I would have made it to at least like midway point.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, actually, before I answer that, you just made me think of something, which was like, I wonder if they had just added, like, they could have kept the pieces, I think, but if the devil or the host character had even been like, hey, listen, if you throw this game for the team, like, I will give you $20,000 in a personal pot for you to have towards the
Mm,
like they could have done that multiple times and that actually would have been great incentive for people to be like, "Ooh, I could add 50 to the pot or 20 for myself if I win."
that's a good point.
That would have
Yeah.
been really interesting to see how that would have played out, but similar to you, I think I probably would have done okay with a lot of these, especially at the beginning. Social deduction, I feel like I'm pretty decent at. My downfall probably would have been all of the memory challenges because my memory
Mm.
is crap. When you ask me to like remember what something upside down is for 10 in a row or 5 in a row or the hexagon game they played at the end, oh my Lord.
Oh, that
They were
one.
trying to
Yes.
memorize all like whatever that was, 25 numbers or something, and I was like, no,
Oh,
not even gonna attempt. And it
yeah,
wasn't
that one
even
probably
just
would have done me
25
in too.
numbers. It was like 25 numbers, and then 90 seconds later was a different 25 numbers. And then
Yep.
and they did 10 of those. And I was like, no
Yep.
way.
Yeah, that one I think would have killed me too.
So
So,
that would have been my downfall. I think it would have been fun. I think like interacting with the people and strategizing, I think probably we'd have done great with. But
mhm.
it's definitely more than other shows I've seen, a mental challenge, though. Wow. Like,
Yes.
I like to think the group we hang out with is pretty smart and also good with escape rooms and things like that. And
Mhm.
I still question how some of us may have done on this show. Like it was very hard.
Yes. Yeah, the choices of some of the games and all the various factors to keep in mind that, only come into play sometimes, but they can be used by other people if you don't use them first. And yeah,
Yeah.
you need like a flow chart to like figure out what to do at any given time in some of these games. It
Yes,
was a
exactly.
lot.
Which I do give them credit. That was one thing I thought they did decent on the production was actually try to stop and explain the game to the viewers. But if
Mhm.
you have to explain rules for 5 minutes for a game, that's also not always great TV. So
Yes, yeah. I think it would have been more entertaining to be a part of than necessarily to watch. And I think that
yes,
is going to factor into my rating at the end.
I agree with that. And I think that's probably why I wouldn't have lasted to the end, but it might have lasted longer than some people. So there's that.
Fair, fair.
All right.
Uh,
Anything else you have that you want to talk about or cover on the show we did not get to?
uh, no, I mean, I really do hope that for the upcoming seasons, the one that's already out and the one that's coming next year, I really hope they shake things up a bit. Give
Hmm.
people more incentive to, be at each other's throats, or just simply add more stuff that they can discover between the games to make it seem like there's more of an overarching thing. Because when you get down to it, it didn't even really feel like the show had necessarily an identity. Because I mean, going into it, like how we started off this podcast, we said that the name "The Devil's Plan" is very evocative. It's very strong.
Right.
It gives you expectations. But when you get into the show itself, and by the end of it, it just feels like it's just a series of events that happen to take place in the same area with not a whole lot
Mm,
to connect them or thematically or stylistically or really anything. So
mm.
more cohesion to a theme would be something that I would like to see heading onwards,
Yeah,
because I think that would
absolutely.
give it a lot more strength.
Okay, great. Well, before we do just some numbers on this, I'm going to ask you to rank it here, our old 1 to 10 system. I did put down just a couple. If this sounds like something you're interested in, recommendations here on our American English side, we have, of course, The Mole. I think we have some similarities here with that show where we have contestants from a wide walk of lives that are brought in and playing challenges for each other towards some money in the end. And then I also put in here Who Done It, which just is always a classic that I love so
Oh,
much. Wish they do another season of that, but kind of
that
the
one
same
was
thing.
great. Yeah.
We should go back and watch that again. That's great. And then
Yeah.
in Korean shows, I haven't watched any of these, but I saw multiple sites. Apparently, this is the second series by this guy.
Hmm.
The first series is called The Genius, and I think it ran for like 4 seasons, it said,
Okay.
which apparently is very highly rated as well. I know nothing about the show, but I gather it's relatively same-y with contestants competing for something.
Hmm.
And then also a different website I was on today that recommended if you like this show, there was another show called Siren Survive the Island,
Hmm.
also on Netflix, where they bring in, I don't know what they said, like 32 people and put them into like tribe survivor style, but it's different than Survivor, and it's like this little island they're on, and
Hmm.
one team's like bodybuilders and one team's like this other thing, and so it's I don't know exactly what happens there. And then the
Huh.
other show somebody recommended was called Physical 100. I know nothing about that show, but that was the other show I saw on here. So if you're interested in some of those, that is what we're talking about here. And lastly, let's get to our final thoughts here. Put a number on this bad boy. You want to go first or second, Justin?
I can go first
Okay.
because I finished watching this about a week ago, I want to say, maybe a little longer, and I've been kind of mulling over my memories of it from then until now, just trying to figure out what to say, in terms of like overall thoughts. And I've gone through a lot of those already. The fact that the show doesn't seem like it has its feet under it in terms of what it wants to be, the lack of incentives for the contestants to really either cooperate or compete outside of the games, to reinforce or destroy the alliances they built up. Like there's a lot that feels like it's kind of misfiring on this. Especially when you throw in some metagame stuff like the prison thing and have that be the only metagame thing that's out there. It just feels like they didn't have a solid vision for a lot of this. But at the same time, there were some of those games that were really cool. The virus game, the numbers one that I keep coming back to, I really liked. The tile placement, those were cool, but they were interspersed with ones that were just utter chores to get through.
Hmm.
Uh, so all in all, this was a just a very mixed bag for me. I went into it after an episode or two, just really excited and enthusiastic to see where it went. And then by the end, it's just I felt like I didn't entirely know what I just watched because the show didn't know what it wanted to be. It's not horrible, despite what my score is probably going to say in like your standard
Oh
rating system.
no.
But to
Oh
me to
no.
me to me a five is like it's very average. That is an average show with nothing remarkable or nothing bad about it. Um, and anything higher than that is better than average. Anything lower than that is below average. So I'm going to go with on this one a 4.5 because
Oof.
the parts I liked, they were really cool, but they were mired in such lackluster content that went on for too long a lot of the time and that didn't really have anything to keep my interest. Watching people do math puzzles for a while is fine. Watching them do it for an hour plus is not. Um,
Scintillating television.
and the lineup game where they had to match faces and that sort of thing. It just there were some of these that were just kind of like bargain basement party games that they decided we're going to make TV out of this. And oh man, did it drag. And it was those parts that really stick out to me more than the parts that I liked. So even though there are highlights, for me, they were overshadowed slightly by the parts that I disliked. So slightly below average, 4.5.
Hmm. You've given me a lot to think about by going first now. This is interesting.
Excellent. It's the
Um,
devil's plan.
yeah, I'm not going to go as low as you are on this, but I'm trying to decide where this would fall exactly. I did enjoy the contestants. I did enjoy watching the progression of the games and people get eliminated. That was not all handled in the best possible manner, I think, as we've discussed at length here. The show certainly has faults, mainly of which is there just needs to be more happening than there is in the game. And a twist here or there would have been fantastic if something else had, like the prison. The prison was cool because something else was there, but it led to a weird room and did not have a huge payoff other than Sukjin got like a little bonus in a couple of games that they played at the end. And I guess basically he couldn't be eliminated because he had so much money at that point. But um, it's interesting. I like the concept. I think they need to do more with it. Would I check out a season two? Absolutely. If they didn't change anything else in season two, that would probably be the end for me. But I would definitely check out season two to see if they changed it up at all and maybe had a little feedback. It looks like they were about 2 years apart on release, so they had a little time in there, hopefully, to reflect on what went well, what didn't go well. Oh, this is tough. I enjoy shows like this. I think I'm actually going to lower my score down a smidge here.
Hmm.
You are right, though. There were just too many parts that were them sitting around or showing us like the best encapsulation of how some of this show went was when they brought back all of the other players, put them back in the dining hall to watch Orbit and Sukjen do the final face-off.
Mhm.
And two of them got so bored watching the contestants that they started playing a board game off to the side on their own
Yes.
because they not only made them play these, well, it was supposed to be 3 games. They never got to the third game.
Mhm.
But not only did they have to play 3 games, they had to play best of three of each of the 3 games as well. And I'm like,
Yep.
God,
Yeah,
like,
this is the big payoff at the end of our 12 episode show. It's like,
might have been better to
really?
just have them play one of each. I don't know. But
Right.
anyway, I am going to still give this a healthy score. I did enjoy watching it with my daughter, who I watched it with. And so I'm going to give this a 7 still, though.
Hmm.
Which
Okay.
is probably higher than you were thinking, but I did enjoy the concept. It just was not executed as well as it could have been. But in terms of, again, versus a show I could have watched elsewhere, I did enjoy it more than most shows I could have randomly turned on Netflix. I have serious reservations about how they handle some of the language in this game. I just don't understand. Do they all
Yeah.
understand English? Do they not understand English? I don't understand that part.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so that's going to give us 5.75 today for our average, which I think I'd have to check because we haven't had a low one in a while, but I think that is in crap category. I think we usually go below 6. So
I think so.
unfortunately, not so great. I had it at 7.5, which would have had it right at the line, but
Oh.
you persuaded me down at the end there. So
Uh,
that's the devil's plan, everyone. Any conclusion thoughts tonight, Justin?
um, it's always it's weird. Like I said, leading into this, I generally enjoy Korean entertainment. This is the first example of it that I can think of that didn't jive with me. Like everything else I've watched has been at least, something that I would revisit. And I'll check out season two of this to see if they changed anything, but ooh, it would be a tall order for me to rewatch season one just because of how much it drags at points. And yeah, I maybe I'll check out the other show this guy did, this producer, just to see like how it compares and if it's any different, to give me an idea of what we're in store for. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we'll cover season two of this at some point. I'm on board for it,
All
but
right, I was just going to ask that. Okay.
yeah, I'm definitely like keeping my expectations in check is at this point, given how this season ended. So
At a minimum, I'm happy a show like
we'll
this
see how it goes.
exists out there, which is just a reality competition where they're against each other. Mixed with the fact that even though it did get a little too convoluted at times, this was not a, like you said many times with your Paradise Island or whatever, this was not a dumb person's show, which
Right.
I do appreciate. Like, there were times when they were going through the rules that, again, like I consider us both fairly well educated, that I was like, wait, what are the rules now? Hold on, who does what?
Right. Yeah. It's a lot to keep
Um,
track of, but
like
I
the fact.
do. Yeah. Go ahead.
Every contestant had like a yellow notepad and was like writing down the rules as they were saying them to them, but they also seemed to have like a guide that they could take for each game as well that was available
Yeah.
somewhere. So,
Which is good because, yeah, it's a lot to keep track of. I do appreciate that the show respects the intelligence of the contestants and the
yes,
viewers, but it doesn't necessarily respect your time, considering how much they
true.
belabor certain sections. So keep that in mind if you're looking to check this one out. It is highbrow stuff, but that doesn't necessarily always make it entertaining. So
Also, at
that's
times
what
for
I'll leave
like
off.
no reason. Also, which is even weirder when they played poker. There would be a couple stretches where they'd be like,
Mhm.
"This guy won 7 chips. This guy won 6 chips. This guy won 4 chips," and
Oh
then they'd
yeah,
go back to like slow again. And I'm like, "What?"
right. Yeah, yeah. It's like, okay, we decided for some reason this little section of time was not worth seeing, but the rest of it, gold.
Yeah,
Just
like the World Series of Poker has been a thing for a long time at this point, and it's been
too long.
televised for a long time at this point. Like people should know how to cut something so it's not like, guess what? They played poker for literally 20 hours. We didn't have to watch 20 hours to get the point.
Right, right. Uh yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. Hopefully they manage to find ways to change things up for season two. Um we'll see when we get there.
Yeah,
So,
agreed.
yeah.
All right, well, that has been The Devil's Plan Season 1, available on Netflix if anybody is interested. And we are, I guess, as I understand this, after this episode, kicking off our Spooktober a bit early this year again. So we have all sorts of goodness in for everybody here coming up with some movies and possibly a couple video games here and some other things as well coming up. Some TV shows I believe we have in there. So, as
Yeah.
always, highlight of our year here for the spooky season coming up. And
Heck yeah.
nothing spookier than the Devil's Plan, though.
Yeah, who knows what's behind that mask?
Right? That'd have been cool. They could take it off and nothing.
Oh man, yeah, just that would be the end of season one, and then season two is, somehow
Yeah.
building off of that. That would have been something at least.
Season 2, we find out they never released the people out of the house. They've just been stuck there for 2 years.
Yeah, the next set of contestants just sees like notes scrawled on the walls or something after they're explored
Yes.
a bit. Yeah, I could get behind
Suddenly, that fresh lobster doesn't look so good anymore.
that.
Hmm.
It's people.
Yeah. June Bin's just got like
Uh,
mess all over his face, and he's the only one left alive.
Worth
Ah,
it. Oh man,
that'd be
it's
fun.
been fun.
Yeah. All right. I'm Cody. That's Justin. This has been the Fawn Pod. Friends occasionally not disagreeing. We will see you all next time. Enjoy.
Bye.